gives off a flammable vapor. When mixed with air as little as 1%, it can create a flammable atmosphere which could cause an explosion. When present in the air, even at low levels, it can prove harmful if inhaled. Heavier than air, it does not disperse easily in still conditions. Its vapor usually sinks to the lowest level of its surroundings, accumulating in manholes, drains, and pits. It floats on the surface of water and may be carried for long distances from its original source by streams, sewers, or groundwater. In reality, petrol stations have a good safety record, but the fact that accidents are rare could lead to complacency. However, if they do occur, it is usually with some considerable force and widespread damage. We needn't be frightened by what could happen, but we should remain alert to fire and explosion hazards on a petrol forecourt. It's so important to operate forecourts safely. Managing such hazards is part and parcel of the storage and dispensing of petrol. This involves identifying those hazards, assessing the risks, and then putting measures into place to make sure that the risks are either avoided or minimized. The Management of Health and Safety at Work Regulations 1992 require those responsible for the operation of such sites to assess the risks to employees and any others who might be affected by what goes on at the premises. Responsible people include site owners and managers to whom the task has been delegated. The Health and Safety at Work Act 1974 requires those who run or work on a petrol station to ensure the safety of themselves, their fellow workers, and the public. What the law requires is really common sense, and more importantly, good business management. It also makes sense for the petroleum retailing industry to have a consistent approach towards assessing fire and explosion risks, not only for operational sites, but also when planning new developments and site closures. This film aims to help that assessment process. We know that a petrol station is a hazardous place. So now let's take a look at the particular hazardous areas by following the route that petrol takes through a site. Petrol is delivered via the fill pipes into the tanks. The vapor is pushed out through the vent pipes or into the tanker if a stage 1B vapor recovery system has been installed. Then it's drawn through the pipework into the dispensers and up into the customer's vehicles. The presence of petrol in both liquid and vapor form creates hazardous zones. These are classified as Zone 0, Zone 1 or Zone 2 for the purpose of establishing what standard of electrical equipment is needed. But we'll show them as a single combined zone. It was originally 20 feet, which stems back to 1911, when an industry committee reporting to a certain Winston Churchill recommended that this was a safe distance from an open fire at which overalls could be dried when petrol was commonly used as a solvent cleaner. This stood until the 1970s, when, to take account of more modern equipment, it was reduced to 14 foot. So let's see what these zones look like. During a delivery, the tanker stand area is the place where a large spillage could occur and where petrol vapor is present in its greatest concentration. The extent of the zone around the vent pipes is reduced when stage 1B vapor recovery is fitted. And the petrol tank manholes create hazardous zones whether or not they have offset fills. Remember, petrol vapor is not visible to the naked eye, and we may not be able to smell it if it's only present at ground level. But make no mistake, it is there, and there's very little space that isn't a hazardous zone. So it's important to keep away any sources of ignition. Let's look at some typical occurrences which need to be watched out for and dealt with very quickly. Carrying out risk assessment is easily done by following the 5 simple steps. Start by taking a fresh look at the site. Look at the surrounding areas. Start identifying potential areas where a fire and explosion hazard may exist. Then, carefully looking at those areas, assess the degree of risk, the likelihood of something going wrong, and who exactly would be affected. Not just site staff and customers, but also contractors, visitors, and the general public. Looking at all the information gathered from step 2, decide if the precautions already in operation are enough to prevent something going wrong, or to minimize the consequences if something did go wrong. Then, decide if more should be done. In other words, what additional control measures, if any, are needed. They may be as simple as arranging to empty bins more frequently, or relocating the fire extinguishers to a more accessible place. It makes for good working practice to record all findings. Recording observations like this enables the regulatory authorities to see that important thought has been given to this area. It can also act as a checklist and speed up the process of informing others. A review of risk assessment findings should be done when significant changes are being made to the site, such as when new equipment is installed or when it undergoes structural alterations, and also when there's a change in the use of adjacent premises. It's also good practice to plan to review the assessment on a regular basis. The guidance suggests 4 distinct areas of risk on the forecourt: delivery and venting, storage, pipework systems, and dispensing. A leak of petrol from an underground storage tank, if undetected, can present the greatest risk to people both on the site and away from it. The ability for petrol to penetrate the ground and enter ducts, tunnels and drains, or cellars, creates a high risk. A build-up of petrol, and more importantly its vapors, could prove fatal.
A pint of Guinness and a scotch.
Right. 2 bits, please. Oh, you'll have to hang on a minute because the bits is gone. Kath?
Yeah?
The bits is gone. Can you put another barrel on, please?
You're kidding. There you go, love. Won't be a minute, I'll just put this barrel on.
Thanks, Kath. Won't be a minute.
Fans are on.
Do you need a map down there or what?
I heard that. Idiot.
Understanding, isn't it?